What's good? What's good, everybody? This is Gary B. Jr., and we are here for Free Show Friday. And I think everything is set up. Let me know if you can hear me okay. My volume levels look good to me, but I'm excited to be here with you guys. And let's go ahead and get into it. Before we get started, we always like to do a review to talk about what has been going on this past week. This is June 6th, 2025. And so let's go ahead and get into some review stuff real quick. And let me pull it up and let's talk about it. So let's see here. What I think we need to do is go back on the YouTube. So let me check out something real quick on OBS though. Let's see here. India. Interesting. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. We're gonna call this free show tips. I'm updating some stuff that I need to make sure is good to go. So there we go. So before we get started, let's look at this past week of um videos that came out. Let me pull up a video for you guys. My man David is in the house. Good to see you, my friend. I'm just going to my channel real quick. Let's look and see what we got here. So this past week, we've got the download and create the custom organic templates. This is one that was um, based on a request from us from Free Show Friday. Last week, I believe someone asked about making like a custom template that had your own background. And my recommendation was to make sure you can make your own background, but then make sure that you put all your text in via Free Show, like over the top of it. It's probably a really basic idea, but I wanted to make sure it was clear. And so I told him I would make a video about it. And so this video outlines how you can make a custom design a little bit. I use Canva, but some of you all may be using Photoshop or there's all kind of tools out there to make that kind of stuff. So whatever you use, you design it, and then if you have any parts of that backdrop that need to have transparency, you need to make sure to export the entire backdrop or background template as a PNG. That was the big thing. Export it as a PNG, and then when you bring it in, you can put your text on top in your template wherever you want it to go. And in this one, I think I had some templates that had text on the bottom right for the scripture reference, and then the scripture in the middle, and then I had some where it was a pop out for like an overlay where you could put like a lower third title or something like that. So check it out if you haven't already, and you're looking for ways to use your own custom templates. I think it's a really cool idea. I know a lot of ministries, you already do this for whatever program you're using. If it does allow those custom templates, you already have a process and a procedure where you make them. But now I want to make it clear that you can do that in Free Show. It's always been available. But in this video, I kind of outlined some ways that you can do it hopefully effectively. That's my thought, at least. I think it's pretty effective to do it that way. And then we did our second entire church setup just from the Free Show planning forum. I don't get to visit any of these churches yet, like I said, unless they're local or unless they bring me out. But the idea is that we can still do the visual setup for it in terms of the software. The hardware is still going to be up to that ministry and how they set it up. But we got to check out Lighthouse Baptist Chapel. All right. And this ministry wanted a pretty basic setup where they just had one in-house screen or monitor, and then they also want to do a live stream. Right. And they use Facebook to live stream currently today. So my recommendation in that video involves some setup for OBS. So if you have a ministry where you've got something similar to where you just need an output for your primary, and then you also need just the live stream setup, I always recommend using OBS with Free Show. They really work well together. So oh, my timer's still in the corner. He says, that is something that I've been dealing with. I don't know if it's something wrong with my computer or something, but it stays there even when I clear all my overlays. You see that? So I don't know what's up with that. If I do clear all, let's see, does it go? It doesn't go away with that. It's not a part of the background. It's just locked up. So if I go to my overlays, it's here. Okay, so it's there, but it doesn't go away on my other options for some reason. So I'm not sure what's up with this overlay. I might replace it because I've been seeing some issues with my overlays lately, and I thought it was a certain version, so I backed up to 1.4.3, and then today I just updated to 1.4.5, and so I don't know what's up with the timer deal, but that's probably something on my end. I haven't seen or heard anybody else saying they're experiencing that same issue, but thanks, Dave, for bringing that up. Let me pull this back up and there we go. Perfect. And so, um, talking about the entire church setup. If you have a ministry that has that type of setup where it's one live stream that you're sending out to a platform, you can use OBS for it, and then also one monitor setup. It was a really cool basic setup, but it was a lot of cool things in there that we want to make sure to remember, which we'll talk about today in the tips part. So I'm not going to jump into it too much, but that's the review of what happened this past week. Now, the other thing is there was, as I said earlier, a free show update that just came out. And I'm gonna pull this up here. And if we go to downloads, there's a 1.4.5 beta. All right. And so I've got my settings in free show set, which is really cool. You can set up your free show settings to where it will notify you. Let's see here. Where are my settings at? Manage groups, data icons. I'm trying to look and see where the updates would be. Yeah, here we go. On the settings under other, there's this option that says alert when a new update is available. And I just recently turned that on. And then I've got this one that says alert when a new beta version is available. Actually, I had the new update available on, but I never had the betas on. So I turned on the beta updates, so you can get those as well. Some of you all might want to do the auto updates. I haven't done that. I don't typically do that just because of the stuff when I'm training and stuff. I do need some type of consistency, but I have leaned into starting to use the betas. Like I said, today I'm using 1.4.5 right now. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that. So that's one thing. Let's see what else came with this. So right now, this create custom visual effects. Now, the funny thing is I have no clue what these custom visual effects are. So we'll look at that. Hopefully we'll figure out something today. And then there's its NDI support for 6.2.0. And I don't know about you guys, but I was having some NDI OBS issues where my NDI would always update in terms of, and I think it was a network issue on my end where it would be like, okay, this is Gary's MacBook dash 98 dash free show live stream. And then the next day, or I don't know what would change. I don't know what the variable was, but there was something that would change to where the next day or the next time I opened up free show or something like that, or next time I opened up OBS, it would be 99, and I would have to go into my sources and change it to be the 99 that it's pointing to in NDI and not the 98. And so it was a little bit burdensome. I don't think it's going to be that way anymore, but we'll see. What's going on, Mr. Brian from Michigan? Welcome, 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 my friend. So while I'm talking, we're doing a quick review. I'm wrapping it up actually, but I want you guys to leave some tips in the comments. I want to know what are some tips that you would give a beginner. Is going to be our first point today. We're going to talk about beginner tips, intermediate level tips, and advanced level tips. We're going to try to keep it within the hour today. I'm going to try to wrap up right at 12. I got another appointment to get to, so I want you guys to start streaming that stuff in now. Tips that you've learned along the way. Tips that you've seen or that helped you, that you've seen videos about, whether it was from me or from another creator. I just want to know because I think they're going to be helpful for myself and others that are using free show. All right. So the tweaks that happened with this update, looking back at this 1.4.5 beta, it says you got link drawing to a slide. That's pretty cool. Restore data on initialized PDFs converted to images added to a custom archive category. So now when you convert your PDFs, they'll kind of go into a certain category altogether. I think someone asked about that on Reddit not too long ago, which is a really cool solution, I think. Allow users to select which categories contain songs to sync to Chums. How many of you guys have ever used Chums? Chums is the church management software made by the same company or organization, I should say. It's a nonprofit that makes free show. And so it's through church apps, and it's a church management system that allows you to organize your attendance and your planning and things like that. And what this is talking about is a project that I'm working on now, that involves how to sync with Chums with your songs, your lyrics, your praise and worship charts, and things like that. So that's coming down the pike. I have not got a clue when I'm gonna figure it out, but I started looking at some tutorials and some videos about how it works, to share with this community. To just kind of, if you're not using Chums, I want you to be comfortable using it and start leading the ministry in that way, because it's a lot more efficient way to manage the church needs and things like that, because this is something that maybe like it would maybe expand beyond the media team. It may be something that if you have a church secretary or a associate pastor or the lead pastor, whoever manages um, the functions and the ins and outs, the administrative part of the church ministry, this is a really cool resource for them, the Chums app. So it's something that is really user friendly. And if you already have a church management system, you'll probably run right into it and be completely fine. For me, I've never used one before, so it's a big learning curve to understand how it works, and then also figuring out how it integrates with FreeShow, with the songs and things like that, because you can literally organize your service in Chums and then sync that up into FreeShow, which I'm really excited about. All right, and then we got indicated that output window is active if not all are the same state. Interesting. Okay. And then updated languages and then user interface tweaks. I always love when there's some new tweaks and things like that going on. There's some bug fixes, import menu not opening. I noticed that one. That was what made me have to go back. I couldn't open up the import window. And then fixed incorrect stage output scaling for custom resolutions. Fixed incorrect slide actions index if the layout slide ID is missing. Interesting. Okay. And then fix project item index action not opening if the selected is same index. Okay. And then fix plain text import issues. That's a big deal. That's one of my tips today. Actually, I'm gonna talk about plain text import. And then fix project file media not importing cross platform. And that's interesting as well. Project file. Okay. Excellent. So if you want to get this beta, make sure to check it out. It's there. It's available, ready to be used. And I'm actually using it today. So I had a few hiccups on my end because I had some stuff that I had done from that entire church setup that were still set on my settings. So I needed to change those out. Um, with that being said, beginner tips in FreeShow. If you are a beginner using FreeShow, this is what I would recommend. All right. So for me, I think about a beginner being one that is getting started with FreeShow and just trying to get comfortable to just make it work the way their old program was working. And that involves a lot to do with your old program to me, because you probably need to import some stuff. You probably need to bring in some songs, not necessarily scriptures, but you need to bring in some Bibles as well, right? And so my tips related to the beginners is going to be to understand the file import option. So at the top, go to the file and select import, and you'll see these options for FreeShow. As a beginner, you probably won't be using any of those just out the gate, but out the gate, you will be needing to use some of these text imports. All right. And this is important to understand how this reads. These are text only that it's going to pull in. It's not pulling in the imagery, animation, and graphics and all that kind of stuff. It's literally just taking the text and bringing it in. And then down here is the media. This is the images. So PDF files where we'll maintain the images, and then PowerPoint Keynote where we'll maintain those images, and then lessons.church as well. All right. So any of these programs that you're using, you can import your songs, your lyrics through those, or through here, but it's going to bring in just the text. So don't try to bring in the background and think it's messed up or it's wrong or something like that. It's just bringing in the text because this is that category. It's the text import. All right. That's one thing. Now, the other tip is if you were to want to get started out the gate, people say shameless plug. This is going to be a shameless plug, but only because I believe it's designed. The only reason I did it was to add real value, right? So if you go to GaryBJr.com and you go to products, I've got one category here on my page for the storefront page, I guess it is. I live up here in these categories, and so beginning with FreeShow, if you click that, it gives you a FreeShow planning form that's completely free that you can download. Not download, but you can get the product. and it's going to take you to a Google form that you fill out, and it sends you an email of your answers. All right. And that's what I use when I do my entire church build outs. And it gives you some links to some YouTube videos that are helpful for that particular option. If you select you want a stage view, it'll give you a video on how to set up your stage view. If you select you're going to be doing some live streaming, it'll give you some videos on how you can set up live streaming with OBS or ATMs and stuff like that. Okay. But this one right here, there's been over 800 downloads of the Bibles that we've been able to provide from this website. So I'm excited about that. So you can get XML Bibles that you can import. I'm going to show you how to import them, but this is a beginner level thing that a lot of people that have downloaded FreeShow, I know when I first downloaded, the first thing I was doing was trying to find Bibles that I can put in there and save and have on my computer and not just be API Bibles. The API Bibles are good if you got a good solid internet connection. So I'm not downplaying those in the least. They're great. But I understand that everybody may not be live streaming with FreeShow and they may not have solid internet connection in their ministry. And so this is a solution that if you go to it, it literally just takes you to a download page where you can get it now completely free, 7 different Bibles. And I would encourage you to get them and save those to your computer, right? They're helpful. I've used these with many ministries before, and I would just have them on my computer. You may be the same way where you want to be a helpful resource to somebody else. You can point them to my website if you want to, or you can just send them the file, right? This is the Bible. So I'm all for giving the Bible away if I have access to it. And I got these downloads completely free online myself. And so I wanted to make sure they were available for you guys the same way that I got them, just a little bit more organized because I did find them in multiple different places, but this is just a consolidated place to get them. Now, once you download that, they're going to be 7 different files here that you're going to have. And then you can go here and I say that you can download any one that you want. Let me put it that way. You don't need to download all of them. You can pick any of these that you want. I download all of them if I were you, but that's just me. It really is based on your ministry needs, right? So when you go to FreeShow though, you would go back up to that same area. Well, I'm sorry. I keep thinking that with the Bibles, you don't go up to import. So this is where you would import lyrics, and FreeShow templates and stuff like that, which we'll talk about. But for the Bibles, you actually go somewhere different. You actually go down to the bottom, the drawer down here. So your drawer may look, let's see, it may look like this to where it's gone. And if it is, you can just go all the way down to the bottom and pick on the title that says scripture. And now this is where you would bring in your Bibles. You got to save them to your computer and then you just select new scripture. All right. The first thing you can do is you can get these API Bibles. And this is a list of all the different Bibles you can find that they have available. So you can type in English, for example. For me, I would type in English and let's see if they got a bunch of English Bibles. And I'm looking to see if they got the English Standard. Let's see. And I don't know if they do or not. They got the American Standard with the Apocrypha. They got the Berean Standard Bible, but I don't think they have the ESV. Now, the cool thing that I like is they do have both NASB Bible. So they got the New American Standard 1995 and the 2020 version on the API side. So that means you need to have internet access to get it, but it's there, which is really cool. And then if I scroll down, I'm just looking to see, they got a lot of different versions of the Bible, but the English Standard is not in there, okay? The New Living, let's see. I don't know if that's in here or not either. I haven't looked in the API Bibles in a long time. I put New Living. I don't think that's in here either. So if you want the New Living, which I enjoy reading the New Living myself, NLT, it's not in there, right? So you can go back. I just hit this little arrow and then you would go to local. And when you go to local, it's going to say, hey, you can it supports these different formats, mine are all XML files, and they're going to be a mix. I'm not even going to act like I know. I know some of them are Zephania Bibles. Some of them might be OSIS, OSIS. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but, and then it also gives you places you can find Bibles. So you can click on this one and it'll bring you to a page that looks like, let me pull it up a little bit differently. If you click that link, they've got some resources they recommend that you can find from their website. So the Bible list, Zephania SourceForge, Zephania OSIS, and then AJ, the CEO's page. He's got some Bibles as well. All right. And they're XML Bibles. You can download those from these different sources. They're exactly the same thing that you'll find on my website, but just different places. Okay. And so this is probably some of the places where I got mine from. I just had to find and search, and the websites for me were a little bit difficult to navigate, but if you go to my site, you can get them all consolidated. So that's the biggest benefit of it to me, but you can definitely get them from clicking this Bible versions link. Hopefully they're still there. All right. And then if not, you can go and import the local files that you downloaded from wherever they are, right? So if you got them from those sites, you still would need to download them by selecting import local file. If they're from my site, you would still select import local file. All right. And then they'll show up down here at the bottom left. And then you got your ones that you get the API Bibles. They'll be down here with the solid face and the blank side of the Bible icon. And then you'll have the ones that you have that are local to your machine that'll have some scribble text on the side of it on the icon there. All right. So I'm looking at some comments here. Let's see here. Mr. Brian Richard says, thanks for incorporating some of my suggestions for this program. On screen things mostly at my church. We take and you're welcome. Thank you for the suggestions. I think they help with the production value. So I appreciate those suggestions too, Brian. At my church, he says, we take a PowerPoint presentation, which is converted to JPEGs and import it as such. And then he's saying there's some pros and cons, or are you asking me what are the pros and cons? Because I've got some thoughts about that I think that would consider to be a beginner level tip as well that I'm going to talk about, because a lot of people have PowerPoint, just like you're talking about, Brian, and they want to bring in the entire background that they already have. They want to bring it, they might have designed it and had it, maybe they picked it from PowerPoint, whatever it is. And the best way to do that is just like you talked about, is to export that out of PowerPoint as images, right? Export it out of PowerPoint as images, and then in this case you're using JPEGs, and then bring that into FreeShow as media. So you can go into your FreeShow under media, and you would just make it. I would put them into a folder. I would put them all in the same folder and maybe call it PowerPoint slides or something like that, and just organize them in a folder by week or by title or whatever it is. And I've got a lot of different folders that I've already pointed to. And so you would do the same thing. So for me, let's see, I don't know what's in this young man in the Bible. Okay, so this is some video files. This is my YOLO box files that are really just my backdrops that I've used. I used to use a YOLO box a lot. And so you'll see the folders and you can get into it. These are all folders that are on my computer though, right? And so I'm just pointing it by hitting new folder, and it'll just point to whatever folder you want to, and then you'll have access to those PowerPoint image slides that you've exported, and then you can just make a show out of those, right? Which I love. All right. So thanks for bringing that up, Brian. I agree. That is a big tip for beginners, because a lot of people are going to be coming from that. And the pros of it are that you get to have that background that you customize. The cons of it to me are that you don't get to keep your animations, right? And so a lot of times we use PowerPoint, we'll make things fly in, we'll make things do all kind of fancy stuff. You would not have access to do any of that, actually, even when you bring them in as an image, right? So you'll lose the animation. So what do you do about that? Well, the option I would recommend is going to be to bring in the text from the import menu, and then make your own custom background in FreeShow, and then animate your text in FreeShow as well, right? Put in some transitions to it, and it'll make it animate that way. All right. So you can bring it in as text from here. Let's see, you would select PowerPoint if you got PowerPoints, and just bring the text in. Now it will have the potential of being a little wonky, because everybody designs their slides different. Most of the time when I use PowerPoint, which I don't use very much if at all now, but when I did, there would be usually more than one text box, usually at least two. So it would be a title slide and then a text box with some bullets in it or something like that. And it's going to be very, very likely that you're going to have some iteration of multiple text boxes with some iteration of a varying amount of text in each of those text boxes. And how that translates into FreeShow is going to depend on the version of PowerPoint you're working on and all that kind of stuff. So that's the downside of using the PowerPoint and not just bringing them, or not just making your slides here in FreeShow, which honestly, I enjoy making slides in FreeShow now. So, or making shows. So if I go to show and I hit new show, what I like to do is I'll make my notes like in a Word document, or in my case, I'll use Google Docs, and then I'll just do a quick lyrics show and I'll paste it in here, and I'll automatically make the show from there. It'll make my slides, and then I'll just drag in, or not drag in, I'll go to my media and make my media from there, from my media tab, to pick my background. So I might pick a grunge backdrop, and then I would drag that onto the show, and it'll be the same for all my shows. And that would be my thought. But that's my simple way of doing it, right? So if you want custom backgrounds, you can bring your custom backgrounds in. That's all these are. These are my custom backgrounds. Then you could drag that on, and you would need to make sure that you format your text to fit where it needs to go. If you've got some line headers or something like that in the background, you want to make sure your text is formatted. So My recommendation, if you're doing that, would probably be to add that into the edit page. Add that background into the edit page. That way you can see it real time is a thought. Okay. So that's something to consider. All right. Let's see here. Brian says we use ESV. Be mindful. Some versions have different copyright dates, and there may be slight differences in the text and be different than the Pew Bibles. That's a big deal. With these being digital, there's going to be a lot of room for variables. And that was another reason why for me, downloaded the Bibles when I downloaded my Bibles probably, I would say maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So those downloads are from 6 or 7 years ago. And so whatever the version was then, in terms of the copyright date, like you're talking about, that's what those versions you'll get from my website are going to reflect. But even in that, since then, there have been probably some updates, right? Some new versions and things like that. And the Bible is good in print because it's at least consistent from when you turn the page one day to the next is the same. But when you have digital Bibles or you got online Bibles, it's going to vary, and we got to be mindful of that. And the biggest thing is it's a sensitive topic because you don't want to manipulate the scriptures and make them different than what they really are. And that's the beauty of a paper Bible, right? A physical Bible is one that you know is the same, right? No matter what politically correct changes are made, or no matter what variations in translations are made later on down the line and versions that come out, you'll know it's consistent, at least to what you maybe first learned or however you remember it. And that's a risk. I don't know how to avoid that. It's a sign of the times. Things are going to always be changing. And we got to be mindful of that as believers to say, okay, well, what are we going to do to make sure that we have a legitimate source of scripture? And this is a benefit to have a source that you can have downloaded to your computer. You can have it and you know it's there. At least you know the version that you got is going to be consistent every time you open it, right? Now, when you go to, like you said, a paper Bible, it still may be different than that, which makes a lot of sense. All right. Other beginner tips. I think one of the beginner tips that I've learned to appreciate that I don't think a lot of people recognize when they first start or realize is the clear all button, right? So the clear all button in FreeShow is a big deal on a number of reasons. Because I remember there were a lot of ministries that are not a lot, but there was at least one ministry I'm going to tell you about that talked to me about this, was that they would actually go up here and they would present. And then when they wanted to clear it out, they would remove the presentation. They would close the presentation altogether. So it would come back in and nothing would be shown on the monitors. And I had to help them understand that clear all is going to be the best solution for that, to where you can actually make it to where it'll bring everything off the screen, but you don't have to work real hard to make it come back up, because all you got to do is click on an actual slide and it'll be there. Okay. And so instead of it, you have to hit two buttons. You have to hit present and then hit the slide. But clear all, it works a lot better. Okay. For getting rid of or clearing your slide screen out, right? Because you want to make it go away. Just hit clear all. And then if you wanted to, you can hit restore all the same way. So if I hit clear all now, it's not showing up. And this is one of the challenges I've been facing. I think, well, maybe because I'm not presenting, that could be it, but I'm not sure. But I would expect it to not be there, but or to have an option to clear all. Would usually be red, that you can see it. But that's one thing. It would be an option. Once you do clear all, you can hit restore all and it'll bring everything back. Or you just click on your next slide and it'll bring it back that you want, the next slide that you want, which is a really good thing to understand as well. Let's see some more comments here. So Brian is saying we use the same format, black letters on white backgrounds. Okay. We're conservative. And it says we also have special graphics on the slides indicating what part of the liturgy you are in. And it says it is useful for kids. That is really cool. I like that. First off, the basic background and text and all that kind of stuff, that is something that I know I got a lot of templates and stuff like that that I make available on my website, but I'm a big fan of just the plain black background for my text and a white text. So black background, white text. What I'm hearing you guys say is you used the white background with the black text. I like that as well. Just as much contrast as the other way, but just a different approach to it. So what I'm seeing you say, so you got black letters on white background. I love that. And so For me as a beginner, my thought would be to get it to where it's something like what you got, Brian, and or something like this, where it's just completely letters and text. I mean, text and no background whatsoever, or just completely plain solid background, right? As you get more comfortable, you may be able to, feel comfortable doing, like I said, as you get to that intermediate level, start doing some of the template type stuff and the media backgrounds and all that kind of stuff, right? And that is, so when it comes to beginner level stuff, I think that's the main thing for me as a beginner that I would say is important. So getting started with it, and then the shows, like understanding how the shows work. This is a really big deal for me. When I think about working with it as a beginner, I was fascinated by the fact that I can type in the name of a song and do a web search. That to me is a big deal. So if you were, um, I don't know a song, but I'm just typing in something so I can see the option that says web search. You'll be able to type in the name of a song, and I would type in the name of the song with the artist within it, so you can actually have that import with the title, because it'll automatically default whatever you search for as your title, um, and then you just hit web search, and it'll give you that list of options. So if I did oceans and I hit web search, you'll see oceans. Uh, Jay-Z has a song called Oceans apparently, and then Hillsong has a song called Oceans, right? So you can pick this one, and what it'll do is it'll pop up all the lyrics and data. So it says lyrics were copied from Genius, all right? And then you'll be able to see it, and it has the verse organization, the chorus organization, all that stuff pre embedded into it. And you can edit it if you need to. So if you say, I don't want that to be verse 2, you can take that out, which I don't know why you want to do that. But maybe you do notice something that is not, I don't know, exactly correct or something along those lines. You can always come in here and change it. Okay. Maybe you want to break up the bridge. I don't know. This is a long bridge. I'm not a musical person, so I'm not going to act like I know exactly where the bridge should be or shouldn't be, or how long it should be. And then you got the options. This is something that reminds me of what I would do in other programs, specifically OpenLP. I would go online and find it, copy it, and then paste it into an editor similar to this, and then import it, right? And so this one, it'll give you the name, right? So it actually selected it and it picked the name that actually I selected. So it's Oceans Where Feet May Fail, but it doesn't have the name of the artist in the name. And so you can also dictate how many lines you want per slide, and it's set to 1 right now. And then you can format the text. If you wanted to, you can not format the text. You can also auto assign it to groups, or you can make it to where that doesn't work or doesn't happen. So assigning groups has to do, not two groups, but assign groups is the chorus and the bridge and all that kind of stuff. And that's something that, to me, I would want to recommend you keep it on, and then you just hit new show and it'll automatically come in. I'm not going to do that because I already got that song. But that was a big deal. How to get the actual shows to show up. That would be it. You would actually do it from the shows tab. And then the next tab that I think is probably the next most important for a beginner, mind you, is the scripture tab. And the scripture tab this is the gold of, to me, of what makes Free Show so special. The shows in the scripture tab are something that most programs will have a way for you to make shows and a way for you to make scriptures. But personally, they didn't give me the opportunity to be as customized as Free Show does. And so for me, it highlights a lot of the strengths that I see in Free Show compared to other programs. And so you can literally select a verse. It'll give you a preview down here as opposed to up there, right? But if you double click it, it automatically pops up on your main display. And so you literally can navigate all your verses from here. And the other cool thing, this is a beginner tip, but it's kind of, we're getting towards that intermediate level. If you type in a verse, so I'm gonna type in, I just typed in J-O and it automatically hit the B, and then it automatically spaced it as well in my search bar. If I type in 2 and I hit space, it automatically puts the colon in there for me. And then I can pick a verse and I can say 7, and it automatically puts it in there for me. So I literally typed in J-O, the letter 2, space, the number 2, space, and then the number 7, and it put it in for me. I didn't have to type out J-O-B space 2:7. I didn't have to do all that. This search is a smart search. So let's say I want to go to Genesis. I just typed in Jen and it automatically filled in Genesis and put a space, and I can type in 12 space, and it automatically puts in the colon for me. And I can put 1 and it automatically puts in that. And I can hit enter and it'll automatically populate it up to my main, and it's there, right? And I've got the default scripture template for one language of the Bible already here. So this is the easiest way to get scriptures into FreeShow as a beginner to me, is you just go to the scripture tab and start double clicking the scriptures, or just start searching for them real time, right? It depends on the flow. Oh, David had a point here. So speaking of the scriptures, and this is more of an advanced, or not say advanced, this is an intermediate level point here. So we're going to shift now. We're going to start talking about some intermediate tips. When it comes to using FreeShow, there's so many options and techniques and tips and all this stuff. So this show is really serious. I really want to know the tips that you guys are using. So thank you for giving me some feedback on it, because there are things that you might use that I might not have ever thought about. And there's some things that I might think about that you may not have ever used. Right. And so David brought up a good point, is that this option here that says split long verses. This is a game changer, right? This recently came out. I'm gonna say it probably came out a month ago, month and a half ago at the most. But I got to find a long verse. Let's say this one. This is pretty long. All right. This is Genesis 12, verse 8. But if I say split long verses, look at what happens to verse 8. It goes from verse 8 to be in verse 8a, 8b, and 8c. So now it's shorter, and all the lines are showing up, but they're showing up one or two lines at a time, right? And you'll see it broken up. So you'll be able to see the verses. So you can double click, and then to navigate through your verses, I believe it's if you hit Command, you'll be able to switch through. So I'm holding down Command on the Mac, and I'm just hitting my arrow to the right, and I can go through each verse. That's an intermediate tip, I'm gonna call it, because it's a quick and easy way to navigate through your verses. So let me show you what that looks like. So if I pull that up, I'm using Command and my arrow keys. I'm completely covered up. I can't even touch FreeShow right now, but I can arrow through to each verse, and it shows you the A and the B and C, if there is one, next to it. And it just means that it split that long verse. Okay. It just split it out, kind of like what David was talking about, which I do agree. It's a really cool feature in FreeShow. The other thing about the intermediate level that I would say about this is, if you wanted to show the actual verse number and not the verse range, this is the best way to pull up your scriptures, because if you try to make a verse, so you can take all these verses and you can select them by holding down Shift, and you can select these, and I can right click and convert it to a show. All right. So if I convert this to a show, it's going to say, do I want to split the reference or the reference on the first slide and all that kind of stuff? I don't really change any of that stuff. I just hit convert. And now check out what it does on the actual show. It looks like this. We got 7A plus 6A plus 6B plus this plus that plus that plus that. That is crazy. We don't want that. All right. So I would say, unless you know, I'm just leery of even doing that. Like I said, you can take it off, I guess. So if we do it again, let's say if I convert to show reference on first slide, let's see if it'll do that, if that'll change it. And so no, it still puts that in there that way. You would have to like take out to where it doesn't show the verse numbers, which are not the verse number, but the reference of it. So you would have to make it to where it doesn't show the reference, and it'll be something, let's see here. And it'll end up being something like this, where it doesn't show you the Bible number, or the verse number, I should say. And so this might be something I can submit to GitHub or something like that, but it's just something to know. I just looked at it as, okay, this is how it works. That when I convert it to a show, it puts the range of the verses that I select, if I select the range. Now, there's really no benefit to converting to a show if you're going to just put one verse. So in that case, I always prefer to just do it from here. But the biggest benefit of converting it to a show is that you have it ahead of time, right? And so if you got it ahead of time, you can have time to edit that if you wanted to and make it just show one verse at a time. But that's something to consider, okay, that I think about. Let's see here. Brian brought up another point here. He says he likes the motion backgrounds and the fly-ins and have used them in the past. He says, but our church fathers want a simple, readable format, and it makes things easier for my volunteers. Absolutely. So you start getting to that intermediate level. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with FreeShow. And one of those things is add transitions, where things can fly in, they can bounce in, they can do all kind of stuff. But like you said, or like the fathers of the ministry said, I would also consider it to be distracting at times, right? Unless it's something you want to draw attention to. And I've talked about this a number of times, and I made a video about it. I don't remember what video it was, but I made an overlay for you to do like a QR code deal, right? And so let me see. I don't even know this. It's under visuals. I don't know where I put that. Timer Sunday, lower thirds, no. Organic, nope. I'm just looking. Okay, here we go. So it's under Free Show Friday topics. I don't know why I put it in there, but there's this particular fly in here, right? And it's got that fade in and then it kind of jumps out and snaps back to where it needs to go. That's a cool effect because I want to draw attention to it because I do want people to see it. So if they're looking up at the presentation board, the TV monitor, wherever this is, I want that to show up and then it jumps out. It leaves the screen the same way that it came in, which is just a fun way to do it because it is something you want to draw attention to if it's a QR code, right? But for verses and scriptures and things like that, I'm with your team that simpler is better. I like that. And then the motion backgrounds, that's a big deal with Free Show. Once you get past the beginner level, I would say the motion backgrounds are definitely an intermediate level because you can go to your favorite place to get motion backgrounds wherever you go get them now. Before Free Show or pre-Free Show, you can go to get those and put them and use them in Free Show as well. I got some video backdrops that you can find on my site. They're the toolkit ones here. So this is one I like. This has got, it's just like I don't know what that is. I don't know what that effect is, but I called it sand, but it's more like a wave form or something. But it's subtle, right? And this is something I would recommend you look for so you don't discourage people that are in leadership to think that it's going to be out of the way or distracting. This is very subtle, but it's there, right? I agree. The more subtle it can be, the better to be. I like the bubbles too. They may not be as subtle, but they're not distracting to me as much as people might. Some people might think they're distracting, but I like the bubbles. And then let's see, this one's a swirl, I think is what it's called, a teal and blue swirl. It's kind of got some bubbles in it, kind of like a starry night type thing or water molecules or something. I don't know what you call it. Very subtle as well. Okay. So a subtle motion background, really helpful, really useful. Adds a level of, to me, it adds some production value, but it needs to be subtle. Otherwise it can be in the way. Will the live stream be available after? Absolutely. OB is asking, will the live stream be available after? To get to access the live stream, you just go to my YouTube channel and just go to my lives and they'll all be there. I try to keep them organized by date as far as I can remember. I'm looking back. So all the way back to January, they were all organized by date. And so these are some of the first ones I've done. And then going all the way up, you'll see them by date. They're not organized by topic too much just because it's such a regular show to make the topics. Sometimes the topics evolve during the show from questions and things like that, but it's always going to be some time we usually ask questions. We're always going to talk about now, and I would probably say we've been doing this now for the last month and a half, where we have beginner, intermediate, and advanced level topics each show. So great question. And then David says, I like a Bible background for scriptures. Oh, nice, nice, nice. I like a Bible background as long as it's subtle, right? So this is one too. This is pretty cool. This one's pretty subtle. And it's real subtle motion, but it's there. Yeah, I like that. Great ideas. I like them for lyrics a lot too. The lyrics, I like the motion backgrounds, especially if it's an upbeat song. You can have a more upbeat motion in the background, which to me is a production value thing, not a necessity, but it's something that is kind of fun. And then if it's a slower song, slower motion, right? Something like that. And then, so intermediate level tips, any other tips that you guys have? So we talked about the media. I would say templates are an intermediate level tip to where, to me, the tip that I would say with the templates is you can customize your own template, right? So you can literally make them however you want. Like I got one here that's got all blue text, right? So if I click on this, what ends up happening is it's going to affect the current show and the output, okay? So if I select that, all the show turned with that template. It locks and it saves that template to this show. So if I close this show and open it back up later, it'll look just like this. So now when I click it, all the text is blue, okay? Because my template was blue. And your templates are going to pull in, this is something to keep in mind too, your templates are going to pull in the color, the alignment, the positioning of the text boxes and the text itself, the size of the text and the text settings, if you got it set to autofill or not, that's going to all carry over with your template. So whatever your template has for those features, it's going to show up that way. If you've got a background, right? So I've got this one that has a background to it, like a transparent background, that'll carry over. If it's curved or not, the corners, if they're curved or not, that'll carry over as well. That's something to keep in mind for you when it comes to that. Yeah, the live stream will be available after OB for sure. The live stream will be available after in terms of the replay. You can replay it, I should say. And just go to my site, like I was saying earlier. So you can go to my channel and just go to the live, and that'll be where you'll find it. Okay. And so that's a big intermediate tip about templates. The other thing I would say is the functions. This is an intermediate thing as well. I started to use actions, and if you're on my mailing list, I sent an email out and saying that our actions were really hard for me to understand because there wasn't anything like that in OpenLP, right? If you're coming from ProPresenter, it may not be a big deal. I think in ProPresenter they call them macros. Um, I don't know if other programs have things like actions built in. It's freely and flexibly with the same flexibility as FreeShow does, but actions from an intermediate level become gold because you can set up an action. I just went down to the bottom and said new action, and you can literally make it do something that you wanted to do. And I'm gonna just show you the actions you can choose from. So this is project actions. You can make it open up a certain project, right? And you can put this action on a slide. You can put this action in your actions folder. It just stays down there. You just click it and it'll open up that folder for you, or that project, I'm sorry. And you don't have to try to search for it and find it. Okay. You can set an action for a show to start a show. For me, I use it for my live stream. I actually have it set to start a show, to start my FreeShow Friday intro on this at the same time every time. And that was actually more of a scheduled action. So if I go over here to my calendar, you can schedule actions. And I got it set. If you notice here, I got this start show action set up every Friday at 10:55. My intro starts up when FreeShow is open. And you'll see down here, it tells you when the next time it'll start up in 6 days, in 23 hours, right? So that's an intermediate level one, maybe more advanced when you start getting to the scheduled action. But actions themselves are under the functions tab. And when you go to them, like I said, you can see a whole list. I'm gonna go back to choosing them. You can see all kinds of cool stuff you can do, and it makes you think about your presentations differently. Because, like I said, you can use these and keep them down. When I first started using FreeShow, I just kept them all down here, and I would just click them. But I realized that I don't have to just click them. I can drag them into places on slides. In that slide, every time I get to it, it'll run the action, right? So maybe you want a slide to show an image, right, on your live stream. But my live stream right now simply looks like this. It's completely blank. The reason it's completely blank is because I have it set to a certain style. We haven't even talked about the outputs and things like that. But I have a certain style set up for my stream training output where it doesn't show slides and it doesn't show backgrounds. That means it won't show images no matter where they are. If they're on the slide or if they're in the background, it won't show them. And so if I have an image in my presentation, I can make an action that says, hey, I need to change my output for my live stream. I need to change the style to be my default style while I'm on this slide. And then when it gets to the next slide, you put another action on that says, I want to change it back to being like my live stream setup. And you don't even have to think about it after that because you just arrow through your presentation and it'll automatically trigger to show the slide or to show the image on your live stream. And then it'll automatically trigger on the next slide to go back to being transparent and not covering up your video camera if you got it, you're using your video camera for your live stream. That to me was a mind blown, situation. Dave says in ProPresenter, you can change looks with action, like an audience look. I think that's what I just talked about. I think audience looks are what we would consider to be styles. So correct me on that if I'm wrong, David, as well. That's something that I would say is exactly the same thing that I just described. I just saw it just now. You probably brought it up way before I said it, but that's exactly what I'm thinking about is that you can do that and then tie those styles to a certain slide to change it for that particular slide, or you can put it at the beginning of a show. So you literally just drag these on to a slide and it'll save a little icon. And then if you want to get rid of it, you just hit it and it'll hover over it and it'll turn red and you just click it and it goes away. So it's not a part of that slide anymore. It's that script that's simple. So yeah, you saying I'm right. Okay, I agree. I'm glad you brought that up too, because coming from ProPresenter, to me, it's the most comparable program that you can use to FreeShow, right? And vice versa. FreeShow is the most comparable to ProPresenter. If I would say, if I had to pick one, those two would be the most comparable to each other. The developer of FreeShow was using ProPresenter before he designed FreeShow, and he wanted something that was consistent to what he was used to. And so this has a lot of elements of what you would find in Pro Presenter built in, but just with different language, right? And so once you understand and learn that language, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to navigate this new program. So hopefully those who are coming from Pro Presenter and you're seeing this, understand that there's pretty much everything you can do in Pro Presenter, you can find it in FreeShow. It's just going to have a different term, a different language to how you name it or identify it. All right. I got about 5 more minutes. What I want to do in those last 5 minutes, I want to highlight some things about outputs and styles. I don't talk a lot about these. Or I didn't talk a lot about these in the beginner and the intermediate level or so far, but I would say at a beginner level, you don't really need to do much with outputs because a lot of it has been customized to where it's going to automatically update for you the outputs, aspect ratio and all that stuff. As a beginner, I wouldn't worry about these override slides or anything like that. But as an intermediate, I would probably say this is probably one of the most powerful places you can make changes to your show is that you can set your active layers for your show. This is what I do for my FreeShow Friday. I've got one active layer here that you guys can see above me and below me, right? That's showing this same exact stuff. And then that's just an overlay. It doesn't show any slides. So if I had slides content showing up and I were to go to the next slide, let's see what it looked like. You'll see that information down at the bottom here, or down at the bottom below me, right in this area, right there, boom, right? I don't want that. So I turn the slides off and I turn the background off so it stays transparent. And then I set some templates to where it'll be in the lower thirds, is which is what I want, right? And so I can customize those as needed. Now, I don't have any slides on, but once I do turn on slides, you can actually make those particular settings changes to where it always looks the same for that particular output or screen. That is a big deal. All right. Advanced level tips. I would say the biggest advanced level tips probably have to do with some of this stuff here, right? Customizing your templates to be a style and then adjusting your outputs to reflect that style by going up here in your output section, picking your actual style that you've just made, and then everything applies there. And this goes back to those actions that David was talking about, where you can change, he called it the looks. The audience looks, we call them styles. You can literally pick any of those looks that you want that you've already designed, and it'll automatically apply to the output that you're in, right? So I'm on my primary output, which is this one. But if I were on my live stream output, or my live Lighthouse Live is what I'm using right now, which is from something else. But if I were on that, I can apply any look that I want. And then your NDI settings. This to me is an advanced level feature because everybody's not going to use it or want to use it. But when they find out what it can do, they're going to want to after that, right? And so NDI allows me to actually send these titles up above and titles below as overlays wirelessly from one program to the next. So I'm sending that from FreeShow to OBS. And then let's see here on my Lighthouse Live, this is what it's active. It's got a little checkbox. It's transparent and it's an invisible window, meaning that it's not tied to an HDMI output on anything. It's literally just a window that I'm using to get a signal out so I can send it to OBS. So it's like a virtual screen, I guess you could say, that is only visible unless you're using NDI. But it's not going to show up and pop up on any of my screens in the ministry in-house or even in my office here in-house, right? It's going to be literally just an invisible window that only way it works, the only way you're going to see it is if you're using NDI, and you can find it from NDI, okay? Which is just a network interface, okay? So it's designed, all my devices are on the same network, I can see them, okay? Another one that I would say is an intermediate to advanced level is your connections section here. This is where you can actually use remote control. So you can control your show from your phone. You can control it from a tablet, another computer, and all you would do is activate it. So you just turn this on and it pops up a QR code. You take a picture of that with your phone, or you send this this HTTP IP address to, you can, copy and paste it and email it to somebody and they can pull it up on their computer that way or whatever it is. And that's a cool thing. And you've got the remote, you've got the stage view that you can do that with. You've got the control show output option and the output show. And the more you get comfortable with these, the more you can actually start doing some other things where you can have wireless connections from one TV to the next, because you just connect the computer on one TV and then control this program from another computer in the media booth maybe, but that computer over there is just getting the output show and it's putting it onto the monitor and it's just propped up somewhere in the back behind the TV or something like that, right? So the more you understand those things, the more you'll be able to use more things. And then another advanced level topic is this here, this WebSocket and companion option for the connections. I keep that on because I'm actually using, and you might hear some Velcro, so forgive me for the noise. I got this Velcroed up, but I use companion to control FreeShow Friday, right? So this is how I control my live stream. This is how I actually control everything when I'm recording my videos. I just hit the record button right here and it automatically starts recording in OBS. It controls OBS, but it also controls what I do in FreeShow. So I can clear my topics. And I just clicked that from my tablet. I didn't use my computer. I just clicked it on my topic and I can on my tablet and I can do it again and I can bring it back up. Okay, because I made buttons set aside to bring up the advanced tips or bring up the intermediate tips, bring up the Q&A. So I can click Q&A and that button it removes the advanced tips and it brings up Q&A. Okay. Same way with review and things like that. And those are some very advanced levels that if you may have already been using BitFocus Companion, that's something that you want to carry over. FreeShow works with it as long as you have this connection active here. All right. What questions do you guys have before I wrap up? We've coming up on that hour, so it flew by. But what questions do you guys have? We're already past 12, so I don't have a lot of time, but I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out that needs a question answered. I really appreciate you guys being a part of this community and giving some feedback, giving some insight, but also contributing even on the videos, right? Like David made a comment about that split scripture option that's really cool. For me, I don't really have a problem with my verses shrinking down if I got set it to auto size, but some ministries, they want it to be consistent size, right? And if you want it to be a consistent size, that split verse thing is going to be a really big deal. I love that those kind of comments come in on the videos because anybody that watches this comment now or a year from now, they can, or watches the video, they can see those comments and they can keep up and know some other ideas that just weren't mentioned in the video. Because I can't go back and remake the video and fix it or edit it in. It's not, YouTube doesn't let me edit a video and add content, but if we make comments down there, it actually helps make it a more holistic video and resource for anybody future using FreeShow or finding that video. All right. Well, I am done. I don't see any other questions coming in. Thank you guys for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I love to hear from you. If you have not already, and you're working on transitioning to FreeShow, or you want to have your ministry's FreeShow plans highlighted, I'm working on a series of doing these entire church setups where we can see the ways different ministries use FreeShow based on what they need. And I just kind of set it up myself. But if you want to do that and you want to be featured, make sure to fill out the FreeShow planning form on my website. And that's a part of that beginning with FreeShow page. If I go back, let's see here. So on my beginning with FreeShow page, the planning form is the first one there. You can fill it out and it'll automatically send you an email of your answers and it'll send me an email and I can use that as a resource. And then if you are using it and you're actively live streaming, I can find your live stream and I can feature your ministry there as well on my YouTube page to just kind of highlight how it works, how it looks. If you like, that's something that people have emailed me and said, hey, Gary, I would like for you to use my ministry. And I've reached out to them and asked, hey, can we feature you guys? And if they don't want to be featured, I don't mention their name. I don't try to pull up any content from the ministry or anything like that. I just try to make a generic one. I'll still use the content in terms of the details of what they want to include. If they want the colors to be bright or anything like that, more generic stuff. And I'll still recreate it because I think it still will help a lot of people. Let's see here. We got a quick question. David says, I like his videos. It helps the algorithm. Thank you for a great show. Thank you guys. And then Andrew says, hey, Gary, I was wondering how we can send a suggestion to FreeShow. Great question. So to send a suggestion to FreeShow, a couple of different ways I recommend at least. This is one place you can go. It's Reddit. And they've got a FreeShow piece here. And so you can see, I'm trying to think if somebody automated lyrics, here we go. Choose in which category PDF converted image to images gets put. This was 8 days ago. The new beta update has this feature in it now, right? And that just came out today. The beta came out like 3 hours before I started. And then this is on Reddit. So if you're a Reddit user, you can go there and make an account. If you're not, the other place is if we go to GitHub. If you go to GitHub, you'll see something to where you can literally go to GitHub and do a GitHub/church apps/FreeShow. And you can actually submit an issue. You can say new issue if you have an issue, but you also can do, let me see what this is. It says pull request. No, I think if you say new issue, I think it asks you, yeah, so you can say feature request directly from here. When I hit that green button that says new issue, it's not just for issues, it's for bug reports, feature requests, or just a blank issue. I would say you're going to pick one of those two typically, right? So great question, Andrew. Hopefully that makes sense for you on ways you can actually submit recommendations or suggestions to the Free Show team. This goes directly to the developer and then any others that want to contribute. Since it's open source, there are a lot of people that help develop tools and tips and pieces that work. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. All right. With that being said, you guys have a great rest of the day. I'm gonna go ahead and cancel or end the live. But oh, you know what? I got this. I got this outro. I almost forgot. Last time I forgot to do it. Let me try to run my outro real quick, and then we'll wrap it up that way. All right. Let's see here. How do I find? I'm gonna do my shows, and oh, I got it in my Free Show Friday shows. All right. Free Show outro video. Okay, I was like, that's not how it's supposed to look. All right, let's see if this works. You guys have a great rest of the day. Thank you. I really hope it helped you in a major way. Now, at this point, most people would ask you to like and subscribe, and I think that's great. But my goal is a little bit different. My goal is to empower as many people as possible all over the globe. And there's one way that you can really help me do that, and that is to leave a comment below with a question, a thought, how this video may have helped you, or things that were left out that you still have questions about, and to share this video with someone just like you, someone who is looking for answers, someone who's curious and wants to grow. With your help, I believe we can build a community of